Hey guys, tonight we're going to slip back in time about 4,000 years to the banks of the Nile River, where the morning sun casts long shadows across mud brick houses and the air carries the scent of bread baking and incense burning in temple courtyards. You're standing in ancient Egypt, watching as a young woman named Nefertiti, not the famous queen, just one of thousands who shared that beautiful name, meaning the beautiful one has come, carefully tends to two small clay pots in the corner of her home. In one pot, she's planted barley seeds, in the other, wheat, and on both, she's done something that would make you cringe if you witnessed it today. You probably wouldn't last 5 minutes in this world where medical knowledge came from trial and error over centuries, where the line between medicine and magic was thinner than papyrus, and where pregnancy tests involved things you definitely don't want to think about too deeply before bed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is there. I love knowing that these ancient stories are reaching people across different time zones, maybe helping someone in Tokyo wind down for sleep while someone in London is just starting their evening. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself transported to the reign of Amenhotep III around 1390 BCE in the bustling city of Thebes. The air is thick with the humidity that comes from living beside one of the world's greatest rivers, and you can hear the distant sound of workers chanting as they haul limestone blocks for yet another temple construction project. But your attention is drawn to a modest house where a young scribe named Khemwaset lives with his wife Tauret, named after the hippo goddess who protects women in childbirth. Tauret has been feeling different lately. Her monthly bleeding has stopped. Her breasts feel tender, and she's been overwhelmed by waves of nausea that hit her most strongly in the mornings when she tries to eat her usual breakfast of bread and beer. In our modern world, she'd simply walk to a pharmacy and pick up a pregnancy test that could give her an answer in minutes. But this is ancient Egypt, where determining pregnancy requires patience, hope, and methods that would seem absolutely bizarre to us today. You watch as Tauret consults with Isedem-Kibe, an elderly woman in the neighborhood, who serves as both midwife and healer. Isedem-Kibe has delivered dozens of babies and has learned the ancient ways passed down from her grandmother's grandmother. Her weathered hands move confidently as she explains the procedure that Tauret must follow, a method so old that even Isedem-Kibe learned it as established tradition. Take 2 cloth bags, Isedem-Kibe instructs, her voice carrying the authority of decades of experience. Fill one with barley, the other with emmer wheat. Each morning for 7 days, you must moisten both bags with your water. The word she uses for urine sounds much more dignified in ancient Egyptian than it does when translated, but you understand what she means. You observe as Tauret carefully prepares her test. She takes 2 small linen bags, the same fine linen that wealthy Egyptians use for their clothing, and that will eventually wrap mummies for their journey to the afterlife. Into one bag she pours a handful of barley grains, each kernel golden and perfect. Into the other goes emmer wheat, the strain that grows so well in the fertile black soil left behind by the Nile's annual flood. The theory behind this test, you realize as you watch, is based on observations that ancient Egyptian women made over countless generations. They noticed that pregnant women's urine seemed to have properties that could encourage plant growth, whether they understood the science behind it or not. They had stumbled onto something that modern researchers would later discover contained more than a grain of truth. Every morning, for a week, just as the sun begins to peek over the eastern hills and cast its first golden light through the small window of her home, she takes each bag and carefully moistens it, then places both in a warm, dark corner of her house where the temperature remains constant. You can see the hope and anxiety in her eyes as she tends to her makeshift pregnancy test, checking the bags each day for signs of germination. The waiting period gives you time to explore the broader context of pregnancy and childbirth in ancient Egypt. You wander through the streets of Thebes, observing how this civilization approached one of humanity's most fundamental experiences. Unlike many ancient cultures that viewed women primarily as property, Egyptian society held a remarkably progressive view of female health and reproduction. You visit the Temple of Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess, whose massive form represents the protective power that Egyptian women invoke during pregnancy and childbirth. The temple walls are covered with hieroglyphic prayers and medical texts that reveal a sophisticated understanding of female anatomy and reproductive health that wouldn't be matched in Europe for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians, you discover, had an entire medical specialty devoted to women's health. The Edwin Smith Papyrus and the Ebers Papyrus, medical texts that won't be discovered by modern archaeologists until the 19th century CE, contain detailed instructions for diagnosing and treating various conditions related to pregnancy and childbirth. These aren't just collections of folk remedies. They represent systematic medical knowledge accumulated over centuries of careful observation. As you explore further, you learn about other pregnancy tests that Egyptian women used alongside the barley and wheat method. Some women would insert a clove of garlic into their vagina overnight, believing that if they could taste garlic on their breath the next morning, it meant they weren't pregnant because the passage was clear. Others would mix their urine with wine and observe how the mixture behaved, looking for changes in color or consistency that might indicate pregnancy. But the grain test remains the most fascinating because of how closely it parallels modern pregnancy detection methods. You watch as other women in the neighborhood perform their own versions of the test, each following the same basic procedure with slight variations passed down through their family lines. Meanwhile, Taweret continues her daily ritual. On the third day, you notice tiny green shoots beginning to emerge from the wheat bag. By the fifth day, both bags show clear signs of germination, with the wheat growing slightly faster than the barley. According to the traditional interpretation, this means Taweret is pregnant, and the faster-growing wheat suggests she's carrying a male child. The gender prediction aspect of the test reveals something important about Egyptian society's attitudes toward pregnancy. While many ancient cultures showed strong preferences for male children, the Egyptian version of this test acknowledges both possibilities with equal detail. The medical papyri describe specific procedures for determining gender, but they also include extensive information about caring for daughters, suggesting a culture that valued children regardless of sex. You follow Taweret as she brings her sprouted grain bags to Isetem Kib for interpretation. The older woman examines the growth patterns carefully, noting not just whether the grains sprouted, but how quickly, how uniformly, and how vigorously they grew. This attention to detail suggests that the test wasn't just a simple yes or no procedure, but involved subtle observations that required experience to interpret correctly. The signs are favorable. Isedem announces after her examination. The life force within you encourages growth in the world around you. You carry new life, and if the wheat's eagerness to grow speaks truly, you may carry a son. But pregnancy testing was just the beginning of ancient Egyptian reproductive medicine. You discover that these early physicians had developed sophisticated understanding of fertility, contraception, and prenatal care that wouldn't be surpassed in many parts of the world until the modern era. The Kahun medical papyrus, dating to around 1800 BCE, contains detailed gynecological information, including methods for preventing pregnancy, treating fertility problems, and managing difficult births. Some of their contraceptive methods involved mixtures that sound absolutely horrifying to modern ears, combinations of crocodile dung, honey, and various herbs inserted as pessaries. But others show remarkable insight into reproductive physiology. You observe as Tower begins following the prenatal care regimen that Isetem prescribes. This includes dietary recommendations that emphasize foods rich in what we now know are essential nutrients for fetal development. Though the Egyptians understood these benefits through empirical observation rather than nutritional science, the Egyptian approach to pregnancy combined practical medicine with spiritual protection in ways that might seem contradictory to modern minds, but made perfect sense in their worldview. Taweret wears amulets dedicated to protective deities, recites prayers that double as medical observations, and follows dietary and behavioral guidelines based on centuries of accumulated wisdom. As weeks pass, and Taweret's pregnancy becomes more apparent, you witness the community support system that surrounded Egyptian women during this vulnerable time. Neighboring women share their own experiences, offer practical advice, and provide emotional support that acknowledges both the joy and the very real dangers of childbirth in the ancient world. The mortality rates for both mothers and infants were significantly higher than anything we accept today. But Egyptian medicine had developed remarkably effective interventions for many common complications. Their understanding of anatomy, gained through mummification practices, gave Egyptian physicians insights into internal body structures that weren't available to doctors in other ancient civilizations. You learn about the training that midwives like Isetem received, which included not just practical skills, but also extensive knowledge of herbal medicines, surgical techniques, and what we would now call psychological support. These women served roles that combined doctor, nurse, therapist, and spiritual advisor, providing comprehensive care that addressed the whole person rather than just the medical condition. The ancient Egyptian approach to pregnancy testing and prenatal care reveals a civilization that took women's health seriously and developed systematic approaches to medical care that were remarkably advanced for their time. While some of their methods might seem primitive or even dangerous by modern standards, many of their innovations represented genuine medical breakthroughs that improved outcomes for countless women and children. Modern scientific analysis of the barley and wheat pregnancy test has revealed that it actually worked correctly about 70% of the time. The elevated levels of estrogen in pregnant women's urine do indeed promote plant growth, making this ancient test surprisingly accurate. The gender prediction aspect proved less reliable, but the basic pregnancy detection method represents a genuine medical innovation that predates modern pregnancy tests by thousands of years. As you continue following Taweret's story, You witness the broader social context of pregnancy in ancient Egypt. Pregnant women enjoyed special legal protections, including exemptions from heavy labor and priority access to certain foods. Society recognized pregnancy as a time when women needed additional support and resources, reflecting values that prioritized both individual welfare and community survival. The religious aspects of pregnancy in ancient Egypt involved multiple deities who governed different aspects of reproduction and childbirth. Tuer, the hippopotamus goddess, protected pregnant women and presided over birth. Bes, a dwarf deity with a fierce expression, warded off evil spirits that might harm mothers or infants. Isis served as the ideal mother figure, representing the nurturing aspects of maternity. This pantheon of protective deities reflected the ancient Egyptians' understanding that successful reproduction required both practical intervention and spiritual support. You observe the rituals and ceremonies that surrounded Tauret's pregnancy, each designed to ensure the health and safety of both mother and child. These weren't mere superstitions, but represented systematic approaches to managing the psychological and social aspects of pregnancy in ways that complemented the medical interventions. The diet recommendations that Insomniacs provides reveal sophisticated understanding of nutritional needs during pregnancy. Egyptian pregnant women were encouraged to eat foods rich in what we now know are essential vitamins and minerals, including leafy green vegetables, fish, dairy products, and specific types of bread made with nutrient-dense grains. While they didn't understand vitamins and minerals in the modern sense, they had observed through generations of experience which foods seemed to promote healthy pregnancies and strong babies. As Tauret's pregnancy progresses, you witness the preparation for childbirth that began months before the expected delivery date. This included not just gathering necessary supplies and preparing the birthing space, but also ensuring that experienced women would be available to assist during labor and delivery. The community approach to childbirth meant that no woman faced this challenging experience alone. The birthing process itself involved techniques and interventions that demonstrate remarkable medical sophistication. Egyptian midwives understood the importance of cleanliness, proper positioning, and various methods for managing pain and complications during delivery. They had developed instruments and procedures for dealing with difficult births that saved lives and prevented injuries that might otherwise have been permanent. Postpartum care in ancient Egypt included detailed guidelines for recovering mothers and newborn care that addressed nutrition, rest, and gradual return to normal activities. New mothers received community support for several weeks after delivery, acknowledging that recovery from childbirth required time and assistance. This contrasts sharply with many historical periods when women were expected to return to full activity immediately after giving birth. The infant care practices that you observe reveal understanding of child development and health maintenance that was remarkably advanced. Egyptian parents understood the importance of breastfeeding, proper nutrition during weaning, and early childhood health monitoring. They had developed methods for treating common childhood illnesses and recognized the importance of early intervention when problems arose. As months pass, and you continue following this story, Tauret successfully delivers a healthy son, vindicating both the pregnancy test results and the gender prediction. The community celebration that follows demonstrates the joy and relief that accompanied successful childbirth in a world where nothing could be taken for granted. The naming ceremony reveals another aspect of Egyptian culture related to reproduction and child rearing. Names weren't chosen casually, but reflected hopes, prayers, and family connections that would influence the child's entire life. The process involved consultation with religious authorities, consideration of astrological factors, and family discussions that could last for days. You witness the early weeks of the newborn's life, observing childcare practices that prioritized both physical health and emotional bonding. Egyptian parents understood the importance of early attachment between parents and children, implementing practices that modern child development experts would recognize as promoting healthy psychological development. The success of Taweret's pregnancy and delivery becomes part of the community's collective knowledge about effective prenatal care and childbirth management. Ais Temkeb will share details of this experience with other pregnant women, contributing to the accumulation of practical wisdom that made Egyptian reproductive medicine increasingly effective over time. As you prepare to return to the present day, you reflect on the remarkable sophistication of ancient Egyptian approaches to pregnancy testing and reproductive health. While their methods might seem primitive compared to modern medical technology, they represented genuine innovations that improved outcomes and saved lives. The combination of careful observation, systematic record-keeping, and community support created a healthcare system that served women's needs remarkably well for its time and place. The barley and wheat pregnancy test stands as just one example of how ancient civilizations developed practical solutions to universal human challenges. By paying attention to patterns and changes in the natural world, Egyptian women discovered methods for understanding and managing their reproductive health that modern science has validated as genuinely effective. Their success reminds us that human ingenuity and careful observation can lead to important discoveries, even without modern scientific instruments and theoretical frameworks. The ancient Egyptian approach to women's health demonstrates that effective medicine emerges from combining empirical observation with systematic application and community support. As the sun sets over the Nile, and you feel yourself drifting back through the centuries to your own time and place, you carry with you a deeper appreciation for the wisdom and ingenuity of our ancestors. Their methods may have been different from ours, but their dedication to understanding and improving human health reflects the same curiosity and compassion that drives medical advancement today. The story of Taweret and her pregnancy test connects us across millennia to the universal human experiences of hope, anticipation, and the desire to understand our own bodies and health. In learning about their methods, we gain insight not just into ancient medicine, but into the continuous human quest for knowledge and well-being that connects every generation across time. The gentle rhythm of daily life along the ancient Nile, punctuated by the eternal cycles of pregnancy, birth, and growth, continues in your mind as you settle deeper into relaxation, carrying these stories of human ingenuity and care into your own rest and dreams. Here, in the quiet space between waking and sleeping, the wisdom of ancient Egypt lives on, reminding us that some aspects of human experience remain constant across all the centuries that separate us from our ancestors who lived and loved and hoped along the banks of that great river so long ago. As you drift toward sleep, you can almost hear the gentle lapping of Nile water against papyrus reeds, the soft conversations between women sharing their experiences and wisdom, and the quiet satisfaction of knowledge discovered through patience, observation, and care for one another across the vast expanse of human history that connects us all. The morning sun still casts those same long shadows across the Nile, though the mud brick houses have long since crumbled to dust, and the voices of ancient midwives have faded into whispers on the desert wind. Tonight's journey through the surprisingly accurate world of barley, wheat, and ancient pregnancy wisdom proves once again that human ingenuity finds a way, even when that way involves things our modern minds can barely comprehend. If you enjoyed this ride, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. And please, drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you're listening from, what time it is in your corner of the world, or if you have any wild historical medical facts that would make our ancestors either proud or deeply concerned about what we consider normal today. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive and your nights filled with wonder.